was surreal, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it was fitting, and the irony of it all is that, at the end of the day, I ended up playing an FBI agent. And, as you were saying, I had just wrapped up a 10-year federal sentence.
I don't get that. Fuck a meeting, we're about to have a sit down. Wrap the phone up in plastic and stick it in the fridge. They know what we are, but they don't know what we did. Anything about a mixer, murder getting sent. Gotta speak in code when you're talking on the phone. Sticking to the code there, listen to the song. I told my team about manifestation.
Welcome back to the W Number. Today I got my boy Joey Lawler here, Charlestown native, bank robber, did federal time, but he played a pivotal role in the movie The Town. I know everybody's got to know what that is. One of the dopest movies of all time, and we're gonna get into his life and dig a little deeper than just the role and the character. He brought the essence to the movie. You know what I mean? He brought the real life experience to it. So we're gonna get into it. Joey, just start off with where you came from and a little bit about your childhood.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Joe Lawler. As Maddie was saying, born and raised in Charlestown. Going to change things up a little bit and see how our experience can benefit others, can help others and stuff. So that's why I came in today, and I hope that hope someone can relate, or hope that you can get a little something out of interview right here.
Let's start off with, you were picked for a role in this movie. Before we get into your life, I just want to get a little bit of a grasp on why you were picked. Like, how did you meet Ben Affleck? Was it Ben Affleck that picked you? Yeah. So how did that all come about?
Big Ben. It fell in my lap. I was out to eat with a friend one day. We were, catching up. He had just came home after a little skid bit, and we drove by Charlestown High. Charlestown's like 1 square mile, so you got Main Street, Bunker Hill Street, and then Medford Street, the project. So drove by Charlestown High, and there was people like the size of the football field. There was at least 100 yards of people, standing in line, and he said we should check it out. I didn't know what it was. He told me, he explained, he broke it down, and I never thought nothing else of it. We went out to eat, come back like an hour later, still cruising around, and he said, let's go in. And at that point, I asked him, I was a little intrigued. I said, well, I said, you said it's about the neighborhood. And he said, yeah. He said, I said, it's about the neighborhood. It's about, it's about us, right? It's about Charlestown. So I said, well, not to be like this, but I said, I'm not waiting in line. I'm going up to the door. So I knocked on the door. Girl let me in. Girl from the neighborhood, and we went, and there was tables set up in the gym. And I was saying, I came home. I just come home, so I was still probably living in this is 2010, so it's probably like 99. I was still dressed like it was the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Or like, but I had like I think a Puma jumpsuit or Nike jumpsuit or whatever with the fresh kicks, and I don't know, maybe I looked the part. But I walked up to the table. The guy had my friend read a line. He's a little guy, Napoleon complex, for Golden Gloves. He likes a shadow box. I don't play with the hands though. And he read a line, and then the guy said, okay. After he asked me, why'd you get to read 2 lines? I said, I don't know. Stop playing. And the guy got my information. After I read another line, and he said, I'm going to take your information. And he took it, and lo and behold, he called the next day. A guy named Pete. He called me. They were located in Cambridge. They was set up over there where Affleck's from. And I went over the next day, and it was on from there. I went in. I read a couple lines in front of the camera. The guy Pete was there, and the next day I went, and Affleck was there, and me and him, built a little rapport, and it was it was surreal, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it was fitting. And the irony of it all is that, at the end of the day, I ended up playing an FBI agent. And, as you were saying, I had just wrapped up a 10-year federal sentence, which was, I brought a couple friends over. One of them will remain anonymous, but he didn't want to play the part of a Boston cop. And Affleck asked me, like, what's up with your buddy, I didn't know what to say. He said, he goes, no one's ever turned me down. I said, that's on him. I said, I don't know. That shit, I goes, that's suspect to me. But, yeah, fucking, you're going to pay me? Like, throw me in a suit, throw me in an FBI suit. You know what I mean? I don't need fucking no validation from anyone. But yeah, it was a great experience. It really was. And it's nice to be able to even get the story out there. Because like I said, you never know, people's intent and stuff, especially like, in the neighborhood I grew up in that type of environment where, for such a long time, there's a lot of, people, what's their agenda, what's their motives, and to then to see the other side or whatever, or to, get a little glimpse of something that wow, you're gonna pay me to just play to play a role, and it's kind of it's wild, but and it's new to us, but at the same time, like to me, that's a no-brainer. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
The one thing with Hollywood, like it was 3 months I was on set, and it's very, they're very pretentious. I said it before. I think Affleck, my feeling was he liked me because I didn't sweat him. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like, he was kind of like, he was more, and he picked my brain a little bit. And I sat there and I told him a couple of my stories. You know what I mean?
What's one of the stories you told him a little bit just before we move on to this? I
So-
stay on the same track, but I
Yeah,
just want to
no,
hear one of the stories.
absolutely.
You're sitting down talking to Affleck, and you're like, let me tell him a story. What comes to your head? Like,
Well, it's funny too. You say that because I was sitting there and I start getting into the story. I might do it now, but
yeah,
he,
let's do it.
I start getting into the story, and next thing you know, I'm out of the seat, and I'm animated. You know what I mean? And he's at the other side of the table, and he's just like, he's listening. But he was picking my brain. And I told him how I worked for the phone company.
Yeah.
And I work for Verizon. And in the movie, the kid works for Veracom. Des. That's in Owen, my little buddy Owen, a younger kid from Charlestown. He ended up getting the role, which was I was super happy for. I had a couple people are so foolish. They were like, they I don't know if they thought if they thought it would make me feel better or whatever when things fell through, and I'll get into that in a second. But they put their foot in there, or they kind of came with oh, that's bullshit. I said, well, you should be happy for him. You know what I mean? Like it's not about that. You know what I mean? Like he deserves it just like I do or anyone else. And all of us. You put in it is what it is. That's the way it goes. And I ended up, Affleck did the right thing by me. He ended up taking care of me, and he made me an FBI agent. I didn't get to play the bank robber. My PO probably cost me, 3 figures at least. But
Really? Yeah, I remember.
But I had opportunities these people I built relationships with. What do they say? You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And they liked me, and it was nice. I got to learn a little bit about their world, and I guess they got to learn a little bit about ours. And but the story I told them, so I was telling B. Luke, I had a drop ceiling. I used to put like bulletproof vests. My mother she was a snooper, and
Yeah.
God bless her, right? And that's my partner in time,
Yeah.
But and she'd always just say, "Get it out of my house." But she comes up and she kicks the bed, and she said, I hear, I come out of it, and she says, she called me Joseph, and when, you hear your full name, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I said, oh, Jesus. I said, what's up? And I thought I was dreaming. She said, the FBI's at the door, and I'm telling Affleck this, right? And he's just sitting there like, so I said, well, what do you mean the FBI? She said, the FBI's at the fucking door. And I said, well, do they have a warrant? You know what I mean? And she said, I don't know, you go ask them. So I go downstairs, good cop, bad cop, just like, the roles they play. Well, I remember one of the first things they said to my mom and dad, like, they knew my father was a firefighter. They asked they said, we can take him by ourselves. You guys, if it's okay, or if you'd rather us take him by himself, and I said, absolutely not, Like at that point, I'm like, the lesser of two evils, like pick your poison. I'm like, the cat's out of the bag, like I feel safe with mom and dad, you know what I mean? With mother and father, they knock around people, they may not be criminals, or every mother in that neighborhood, or you know how it is, it's probably everywhere, people low income or whatever, or people that that don't get it like that, when a truck comes around and there's someone hits the truck for a bunch of brand new Nikes or whatever the case may be, or new shoes for school. Everyone in town's rocking them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so that's how it goes. I sat there and they they did what they do. And they let me, but they let me know that they were. You know what I mean? And I brought that to myself. I speaking of the geek that we talk about. And if you know, you know. And I was 18 and I had made money that I definitely did not earn, and I certainly, it was more than I should have had, and I thought, that set me on a path of like, to this day, it's something that I still have a hard time with, because I know, it was so easy, and it was, until it's not.
It's a heavy price for that money.
Price, no, it's not even worth, it's not worth, you know what I mean? But at the time, like I said, I was such a, I was a sheep like a lot of the people out there now, I don't know, I just feel like, there was so much pressure at, to be, like I say, my mother could have been Mother Teresa, my father could have been the Pope, it wouldn't have mattered, once I went down the corner, I was gonna be who I thought you'd accept me as, and like, in my neighborhood, it was, if you smoked angel dust, and you robbed banks, you were the man, right?
Right.
Like, talk about fucking misinformation. So, that's what, teenage, that's what I did. I checked all the boxes, right? I learned later in life. I learned, it took me a long time, and a lot of consequences, like you say, as you're well aware of. That, I don't know. I mean, that's just for the birds. It's you get one life and stuff like that. And there was a lot of learning there. But in what I'm trying to do now, what we're trying to do, and that's why I'm glad I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe that there's I think there's a reason for everything, so for us to cross paths and stuff like that, and, just to kind of advocate for yourself, and at the same time, what better way to do that, you can get your story out there, people's, and that's the thing too, where like for so long, being that kid or whatever, or in the neighborhood, and at that type of environment, that facade, that bullshit, that fucking, all that misinformation and like that lie that you have to keep up or whatever, because you're not forming any type of identity, you're not building character, you're not building self-esteem, you're not building any of these things. To be able to give back, like I say, like everyone has a voice, right? And for so long being silenced, right? That's why I think I talk so much now, and that's why I feel like, it's I laugh about it too. It's like, for so long, whether it be in your home growing up, in a dysfunctional home or alcoholic home, whatever the case may be, right? Everyone has their stuff, right? And anyone that pretends otherwise, like, you already know what that is,
Right.
My fucking, along my journey and stuff like that, and in my experience is that when you're honest, like, and when you're vulnerable, right? When you humble yourself and you get vulnerable, right? And you speak from the heart, and you say what's in me, from like being that kid on the corner, and like, about like, or even at home when you were younger, and it's like, what goes on in this house stays in this house, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, makes sense, but like, that was never elaborated on either, you know what I mean? Now you're a kid, it's like, all right, then you go down the corner, and it's like, okay, so I already learned, I didn't need to go down the corner to learn to like keep my mouth shut, you know what I'm saying?
Mom and dad.
And what I found out is that like being like communicating, like opening up, like people are human beings, they need to speak, they need that communication, they need to be heard, but they also need to listen, you know what I mean? It's a balance of both, and I think that's a big thing, like you talked about, like the price to pay, right?
Fact.
You were in the shoe, you were in the hole for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Anyone, I mean, and I wouldn't wish this on anyone, and if you don't know, like, God bless you. To me, like, it's like, I see you, this inspires me, this motivates me, because it takes a special person, you know what I mean? Like, it's anyone, people, I remember my father saying to me one time, he's a man of few words, but when he does speak, it was, it would have a big impact. And one of the things, I remember him saying, like, I don't know how you could stay in a cage, and, I was a kid, and he was, I think he was trying to, like, that's for no one else to understand. And he's like, I would lose my mind. And I said, well, that's an option too, right? and that's the thing that people don't understand, like, doing time, that doesn't make you, like, that means nothing, bro. There's pieces of shit in jail too.
Oh, yeah.
There's good people, right? There's good, there's bad, there's ugly, and that's on the street too. But like doing that, the act of that doesn't mean nothing, but it does, like, my grandmother used to say, like, yeah, I couldn't say to the judge, like, Your Honor, like, all right, I understand, I get the hint now, like, I'm good now, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. That's not how it works. So like, you're either gonna make it through it, and like the whole, to be able to come out here with your wits, and like, not only that, but then like be motivated, inspired, and not, like I said to B. Luke, but I'll curl up before I ever roll over, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, but at the same time, like, that's not, I don't want that to be like an option either, you know what I mean? Because for a long time, it has been, and, I just, that, when I see people that have been through adversity, right? That's the one thing, the misconception about, like, and people talk about Charlestown, this, that, the other thing, and it's like, all that whole, people love a reputation, people love that shit, right? Of course, right? We're human beings, right? That's your ego, and like, what I learned is that the ego is like, it's just a defense mechanism, and it's, and all you're doing is playing a role that you might not even know you're playing, you know?
It becomes so ingrained in you that you forget that you're even, faking it almost. It's not like you're faking it. It's 100% real at the time, but you're becoming something that is an outside influence rather than, what's really naturally within you as a person. And a lot of times when we're kids, like I never got told like I would like this. If someone told me when I was a kid, I would rather be hated for who I really am
Absolutely.
than loved for someone who I'm really not.
100%, right.
Then I might have put a lot more thought into who I really was.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I did not think about it at all. I thought it was, if this dude could do that this good, I can do it even better.
Right.
And it's like, if that meant fighting or shooting or stabbing,
That's right,
I
right.
do better. Bro.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And I just wanted to be the toughest kid there was, bro. I didn't want to be the second best at anything. I was just so competitive when it came to that. But I think if I put my mind to something like this in the first place, then I probably wouldn't have done so much time in isolation. And
Right.
maybe,
But at the same time, and with that being said, that's what I mean about, like, everyone has a story, everyone's voice matters, everyone should be heard, and it's like, if that's also where it's like, separate yourself, where it's like, who's to say, like, what all right, it's, if you don't think you have a story, like, that's not even for you to say, right? You share that, like, other people, like, let them, like I say, like, show me who you are and let me decide what to do with that, right? It's like being away with the screws or something. It's like, I'd respect a screw that was like a dickhead fucking all the time, inconsistent, than someone that's gonna be like, switch up on you, you know what I mean? One day they wanna play nice, another day they wanna fucking lug you, or whatever the case may be, right? Like, that shit there, that's scary, like, people like that, that's going back to, like, talking about character and stuff like that, where, I feel like it's like, what do they say, God's plan? It's like, it's true, it's like, if I didn't go away when I was a kid, like, I'd probably be dead, right?
Yeah.
My ego would tell me that, like, you're not like those, you're not like the other kids that went down, that got into drugs heavy and all this shit. It's like, yes, I am. Yes, I am, right? And, like, but for a long, like, why would someone admit that to themselves, let alone to anyone else, right? But in doing so, it's like, you become part of, right? You become, like, part of something, like, bigger than yourself, right? And that's a lot less pressure and, like, weight to carry than, like, just to be, like, part of, bro. I just want, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to be me and like, and contribute to, to something positive. And you said, I like what you said about, it's about faking or something, where it's like, I wasn't raised to do the shit I did, but I did the shit I did, right? So does that make me, like, that label or whatever, right? So it's like, all right, so yeah, I did dirt, right? I robbed it, like, all that shit. Whatever you want to call me, right? Like, that, I wasn't raised to be that. That's, and like, and when I did take on that role, or like, I wore that jacket, right? I fucking suffered because of it, right? And not only me, my family suffered, and, where it's like, so as far as that goes, like, I think we read too much into things, or we're so self-critical and stuff like that, and that's why I love, like, I talk about the recovery stuff, and, like, even the things I've learned, I don't know if it comes with age or whatever the case, but I'm sure there's a lot of factors, and I've said, like I said to B. Luke, and it was in the movie, it said, Charlestown, like, growing up there, like, it probably ruined my life, but, like, I wouldn't change it for the world, because, like, at the end of the day, you couldn't get me, right? And that's the thing, and I'm sure I know without even knowing. I believe that you feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't switch. Like, you couldn't, if you're like Joe, you never had to go through that again. If you're like, I am who I am, and, like, and to build on that, and it's just an amazing feeling. Like, there's, like, no feeling, no high, no score, nothing ever has made me that content and that, like, and it's wild.
In order to feel the highest highs, you have to feel the lowest lows. You know what I mean? You have to know what each one feels like in order to recognize it for what it is, right? And so success is something that, you don't appreciate unless you've been able to appreciate some very, very big losses. You know what I mean? But what do you, like, as a child, like, in school like that, do you have, like, ADHD and like, you were bugging, like, in the classroom and stuff like that?
It's funny. I was saying, I saw something the other day, like, on social media. It said, cause there's a lot of shit. Like, there's that's with anything. You know what I mean? Like, there's it's like how you gonna, what's your perception, how you gonna perceive it, and what do you, I don't have to look at, like, it doesn't matter, right? And it's always been that way, it's always gonna be that way, good and bad, yin and yang, and it was about ADHD, like, there's some certain, like, good things, like, there's some informative information, there's, like, and I need to be educated, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, Billy Madison, I'm like a little kid, and, it talked about ADHD, and it said, and the guy said, when someone with ADHD, if they're, like, looking at you, having a conversation, they're probably, like, not listening or paying attention, they're, like, I'm more engaged while, like, and that's, cause sometimes in my head, I'm so nuts, I'm like, dude, like, make eye contact, like, look at the person. And I don't know when that shifted or when that happened, but, like, it's funny, because I do get engaged,
It depends on what you're talking about.
It's right.
Like, I swear I'm like that, bro. I'll be like, and then they'll get done talking, I'll be like, huh?
Yeah. If it looks like I'm paying attention, I'm probably not. And that's how my mind works, it goes so quick, and even to be able to do that, to put your mind to something, so positive, right? So, I mean, I can't control that, right? I can't control my thoughts, all that shit, but I can put myself in a position where, like, there's, I'm not torturing myself, right? Like, that neighborhood's gonna be there, but, like, it's nuts. But as a kid, I would say, I don't know, and even with that, I saw something about the ADHD, and it said, that there's just different theories, different things or whatever, and who knows? At the end of the day, like I say, whether mental illness, right, which is a big thing, right? I don't know if it's because I partied too much as a kid, if I, that I had too much fun, in the short period of time of, being, running around out there, or if I was born that way. At this point, it's irrelevant. I know I gotta do something about it, right? I gotta go to counseling, I gotta get, and that's the whole thing too. It's like, and I've learned that in recovery and stuff, where I felt so much pain, and I know that you can relate to this.
Yeah.
And I always say it's like a pendulum, right? When the pain got greater than whatever this told me, right, which isn't good, or whatever I thought you thought of, when the pain got greater, that was the game changer. That was like, what a blessing, right? Yeah, did it suck? Was it tough to go through? But, like, that allowed me, it's like, I didn't need anything I didn't need to, like, try to tell myself or believe that, like, I was something that I wasn't, right? Or that, or to try to impress anyone else. It's like, to just be able to do that was huge, and it attracts the right people, as opposed to, it's like going to doctors, bro, right? Like, and this is, people go and they're like, the doctor asks, what's wrong with you? And you try to break it down, because you heard something on the street, or you heard, and you're like, this might work for me, right? But then, what's your agenda? What's your motive? You know what I mean? Because I know I always have one, what I'm saying? All right. And I'm telling the doctor, who's trying to help me, and I'm like, I think they're like the feds, they're interrogating me, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna make up a story to try to get what I think that I need, and I don't even know what I need. So when the doctor asks me, like, what's wrong with you, right? I don't fucking know. I wouldn't be here if I knew. You know what I'm saying? You tell me, you're the doctor. But I just told you that I'm fucking, that's something, I told you something, and now you're gonna give me something that's probably gonna fucking make it worse. You know what I'm saying? It's just funny. To be able to laugh about that shit, bro, it's awesome, and I see so many people where, I don't know, it's just like, you be Luke, it's to see people motivated, inspired, and like speaking the truth, right? You talked about that or going through what you went through, right? Or you said you needed to be the best at this, you needed to, and that, the ultimate, the thing there is, like, people don't want to say, like, it's like, no fear, this, that, the other thing. It's like, hey, bro, like, good for you. If you can, make money off a logo or whatever, or a saying and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not a hater, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's, hey, thanks for the idea, you know what I'm saying? I got a couple too. And, but the truth is, like, if you're a human being, right, which we are, like, that's part of that. Fear is a thing, right?
Survival, man.
It's a thing. And in our case, right, and I'll speak for myself, clearly I was so fearful that I was willing to go above and beyond what was rationally okay, or like put myself in a position, like, basically, life or death situations, you know what I'm saying? And to make, like, that's so abnormal. But, like, to come out the other side of it, it's like, all right, I needed to be humbled, right? Like, if I can't do it on my own, or I can't, like, acknowledge that, then, like, I believe, I don't believe in a punishing God and shit like that. I think that's a fucking crock of shit. I think that's an excuse,
God is love.
And and that's why I love this, where it's like, or you hear people like they're atheists and shit like that. It's like, I'm like, who gives a fuck? If you don't believe in nothing, why are you telling me? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't have to, right? But like, because to me, it's a red flag. I kind of think that you're looking for a little or a little love. I think you need a hug more than anything, you know?
Someone to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
If not, then why would you even bring it up, right?
Yeah.
Your story is so crazy because like it goes. You have seen like so many different angles of life, right? So you've been in federal prison, you've been in Hollywood circles, and you've been in the streets of Charlestown. And now, like, you're in the recovery.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, you have all these different skins, as they say. You know, you have to have learned so many different little pieces of wisdom from each different aspect and area of your life. What did you learn from being in Hollywood? What did you learn from those people? Like, what were they like, first of all? Like, what did you take from them?
My honestly, and you know, if anyone's offended, you know, I say like, it's funny, I put a thing out on my page, and I wrote a little something that was called, and the title was NG, right? We know what that means, right? So someone's NG, like, you know, and I said, like, if anyone's offended, like, you know, that's one thing, and where the suffering and stuff like that, it's like, bro, hang on, hold on, right? If you're having a bad day, you're having a tough day, right? Like, to be able to look at yourself in the mirror, right, and on in your darkest hours, like, come out the other side and, like, you know, and know that, like, you know, that it's gonna be, or have that faith, and, you know, to hold on to that faith and stuff like that. As far as the whole, you said something the other day, I'm sorry, my mind's fucking all over the place.
It's all right.
You said something the other day, and you were talking about, like, subscribe. You said, I forget what you were talking about, but I fucking laughed. I'm like, and you were like, bro, I spent 10 years in the hole. I fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I'm like,
cut me a bit.
Fucking right. You know what I mean? Like, you've earned that, right? And it's like, if you don't get that, or that don't make sense to you, it doesn't need to. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not. That's
don't
not.
Watch my channel.
That's not what this is about. You know what I'm saying? But if you do know, like, it's like, like that's shit there. It's like, absolutely, like, you know, you see way beyond that. You see deeper, right? And you know, and for people to see, like, you at your core, and a core that we're trying to fucking figure out ourselves, right? Because like I say all the time, there was no growth. They talk about it in recovery. You put a drink or a drug, and you know, and you suffer from that. You were born with that. That it stunts you emotionally, right? That makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
And it's just like being in prison, right?
Same thing.
When I hear dudes say, like, I grew up in prison, I'm like, bro, it's like cringe. I'm like, you know, secondhand embarrassment. It's like, like, I'm like, yeah, I get, like, yeah, it's like, you hear that, it's like, it's almost set. It's like, if you're not a fucking clown or goofball for saying some shit like that, right? Because that's probably gonna be my first thought. You're probably just a fucking, you're probably just, you know, yeah, and, you know, being away, like, that there was no growth, could there be? You know? So as far as, like, we can go in due time anyway, like I say, dude, I'm you know, unless you're a pedophile or a fucking rat, and like we can go anywhere. That's the scary part, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to waste any more time of my life. You know, I want to experience, you know, you know, in doing so, you know, help other people. Like, what's your legacy gonna be? Like, what are you gonna leave behind?
I said that, my legacy. That's what I do this for. Is not so much for the now, because when I die, people will recognize what I'm doing. Even if they don't right now, they'll go back and they'll be like, you know what, dude? They'll pick apart all this stuff and be like, that dude's a great dude right there.
Yeah,
because they might not know now, but they will know sometime.
Absolutely,
You know?
and there's something to be said for that, right? Where you're willing to go, because we both know this, right? Someone said the other day on a message, they sent a message, and they weren't even talking to me, but it was in my thread, and they mentioned someone's a kid that's, you know, to me, like, that's like giving clout or fame to, like putting someone that's a piece of shit on the like, they should be, like, dismissed, just, you know, like, they don't exist, right? But there's, you know, there's people out there, it's like, bro, what's the real problem? You know what I mean? In there, especially in prison, the politics and stuff like that, where it's like, I look at it now where it's like, listen, I got work to do, right? I got work to do. I can't, you know, if you make that choice, we all make our bed and we lie in it, right? I know myself, that couldn't fly with me, right?
No.
It never, and that's the whole thing, and that's always been inside me. It had nothing to do with anything else. But like anyone's opinion and stuff like that, it's like, bro, and to say it, it's like, I'd rather, like, I'm gonna write my family a letter, and if I'm in a position where it's like, I can't go on like this, right? And in my case, it would probably be like a life sentence, right? And I couldn't do it, Aaron and shit like that, where it's like, that's not, like, there's gotta be something wrong with you, like, and if I couldn't, like, before, like, I'd ever fucking hurt someone else, or ever put someone in a bad spot, or just, like, do something like that to someone, like, ruin someone, or I'd write my family a letter, and I'd say, I'm sorry, and I know this is probably, I can't do it, you know what I mean? Because I'd rather go out as a fucking, all right, that was a cow, whatever the case, all right, say what you will, all right, yeah, Joe couldn't spend the rest of his life in prison, right? But you never get it, but one thing you'll never say is that I hurt another person, or that, I played a fucking gangster, I played that role, like, and it's like, and then all of a sudden, you know what I mean? It's like, and I don't know how people do it, you know why I don't know? Because that's not me, so it's like, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to
I
fucking.
can imagine what they're thinking, but I know this, right?
I know they'll never have peace.
When you step into that life, you know exactly what you could be looking at. So for you to throw anybody else under the bus for doing what you did, just so you don't have to face the consequences yourself, you're a coward.
You're a bag of shit. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. Whatever it takes to get through the day, right? Whatever it takes, because everyone has adversity. Everyone's going to go through trials, tribulations. We wouldn't know the good if we didn't suffer the bad. Like you said about, there's something to be said. You know what? Some of my fucking pride, like, and that's why they talk, like, I separate ego and pride. I know that ego's a bad thing. That's me. That's Joe playing a character, fucking, because he's scared, or he's fucking overwhelmed with life, or whatever the case may be. And Joe's fucking, I'm overwhelmed, so I'm like, kick into mode, and that's not a good place to be. But the pride, pride's not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned. It's got me through a lot of tough times. I don't care if you have to sit there and tell yourself. I've sat there as a kid, 21 years old, and spent, I got the next 10 years to fucking sit in this cell, and I'm in the hole, and on a Friday night, I'm thinking about, my friends or whatever at the club, or whatever the case may be, and I'm washing, I forget what I had, like a washcloth. I had nothing, you know what I mean? We had nothing. And sitting there and looking in the mirror, and I was probably out of my mind, but I wasn't, because and I know God was with me. I know that, and I told at that point, right, I don't think I was so blocked from even accepting that, from accepting him and stuff, because I knew him as a kid, and then I turned my back on him, you know what I mean? That's how that works, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
He's always been there, and he always will be, and I'd look in the mirror and I'd say, you got this, dude, I did a fucking, like this. So it's called the sweat lodge, right?
Yeah.
I love learning about different things, right?
Yeah.
And in the neighborhood growing up like that, where it's like white Irish Catholic, and it's so cliquey, right? You too, the Rolling Stones, it's like Cranberries, the Pogues, dude, I like hip hop too, you know what I'm saying? I joke with my cousin, because I have family outside of Charlestown, Medford or whatever, and I joke, and I tell my cousin Michael, he's the Charlestown guy, and Charlestown kid, he'd be like, I'm like, dude, yeah, you have a couple beers, and he goes, you like to, you pretend like you don't. I goes, we go to a party out of town, a house party, let's say, right? And what do all the girls dance to, right? What do they dance to the hip hop, right? They're not dancing to fucking Irish fucking music, you know what I'm saying? Right? And you're feeling good, and you're right? And you're letting loose, you're yourself, right? It's bro, it is what it is, you know what I mean? And to be so closed-minded or so cliquey, or to be that's fear right there. You know what I'm saying? Where it's and then you try to turn it oh, we're so fun, we're, oh, we don't like us. It's bro, shame on you. You know what I mean? Learn about different things. And
Massachusetts really is primal to even in prison, the ABs and shit, we don't take kindly to these dudes coming to our prison system. They're they seem out of status to us, you know what I mean? So it's boils or they got the C-dubs and stuff, but it's boils are nothing, right? You're not coming in here, bro. I even beat a few of them up. But it's fucking you know, we don't like outsiders, dude. I don't know what it is about us, dude. That makes us a little bit different than everybody
Yeah.
else because like Arizona.
But with that being said, though, no, I think I think that we're cautious, right? We got to feel people out.
Yeah.
You ever see, like, I say this all the time, right? And you talk about, like, reading people or judging character. When someone is too comfortable too quick, right away I'm like, bro.
Yeah, weird feeling, right? Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
right? Like, well, what the fuck, right? It's usually spot on, right?
Yeah.
But I say this, like, the people that, once we feel you out, and I think that, you know, I think we expect that from other people too. Once we fill you out, if you're good, like, you know, if we like you, we love you. You know, that's how it goes, you know what I'm saying? I feel that. And once they say, no, the sweat lodge, talking about, like, different things with, whether it be religion, whether it be whatever the case, right? You know, I learned about different cultures when I was away, you know. I never grew up around black people or something like that, you know.
Right.
But being away and stuff, and, like, you know what I learned is, as crazy, talk about ignorance or whatever, it's like, bro, I learned, like, there's fucking good black people, there's fucking, there's piece of shit white people, there's fucking, that's, you know what I mean? That means nothing, none of that stuff, you know, and so I don't even get involved in that, you know. I almost feel like, it's like, even with the politics, to even explain that to someone, like, oh, this is my belief, this is how I feel,
Yeah.
it's like,
It's kind of a front.
you know, yeah.
Like most people go to prison, they're not racist before they got there, dude. You know, racism is like a prison thing. I
No,
feel
was it
like.
you that said about, was I listening to you when you talked about Muslims?
Yeah, yep.
So
Yeah.
I met some good dudes from, like, Baltimore, right?
Oh, yeah.
I never seen The Wire, but I know, like, that I know the what it's about. And the only color they saw was green. Like, they were, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And they were fucking, they were from the hood, bro. They were, you know what I mean? They were the real deal. You never got that vibe off them. The DC dudes, I can't forget about that. We don't even get into that, right?
About it.
Sad. Oh, fucking gross.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, Philly, whatever. And you talked about the Muslims. Like, I met dudes, and I remember I'd be so intrigued. Some of the conversations, bro, even, like, you know, if you come across them, I've been in the hole with, like, Big Tone from fucking New Jersey, right? And, like, we're having this fucking, like, deep conversation till, like, 4 in the morning. He's like, all right, Joey, it's time to go to bed, right? Because I'm like, because I say some outlandish shit, whatever, right? So, like, you know what I mean, right? So I'm like, there's a difference between, you know what I'm saying, right? So, and he's like, and I'm like, I just fucking say that out loud. What was I gonna say? Yeah. I'd asked them. I remember saying that my buddy, Big Wally, he was a monster, bro. And he was a big cardio guy. He worked out every day, and he was a gentleman. He was like he was a perfect gentleman. And this dude, like, you think of that, like, you see the talent in people. You see, like, what do they say? There's nothing worse than, like, wasted talent, you know?
Yeah.
And there's people with a lot of the innovation too, like the shit that we come up with, you know, and to be able to apply that to the street. But I'd ask him, I'm like, so listen, you know, and I'd pick his brain. I'm like, so I know this dude's doing, like, a fucking light bit or whatever, and it's like, fucking 35, 40 years, and I'm like, so this dude that came in and like, now he's claiming Muslim, and you know, like, this paperwork, you know, he's no good. He's no good. I know that y'all spend, like, I know you're solid, right? I know what you stand for. How do you feel about it? And the same, I think it was you that was saying it about how like, they do it, like, that's a play for them. Now they're Muslim because to protect themselves. It's a PC move, right? So it's like, I remember when I got on the bus, I'd never forget this, some of the shit you remember. There was a kid from maybe Connecticut or something.
Yeah.
Playing the part, young kid. He picked up a natural life. Right, come to find out, he's in the fucking tank. Like, he's like, you know, he's playing the fucking role, right?
Yeah.
Fucking loud, right?
I hate loud.
Loud, fucking, like, rah, rah, rah. Sitting there, right? And we get on the bus. We pull into Lewisburg, and I remember it was fucking like watching a movie, bro. Like, I should have had fucking popcorn. And all the dudes were, like, started fucking, like, you know, like, saying, like, yeah, you fucking, what his thing was, right? This fucking killer, right? Like, fucking, he had no clue. This kid, and talk about karma. They executed, like, a girl, you know, and her boyfriend, like, boyfriend and girlfriend, right? Young kids, like, they got, like, fucking $16 from them, let's say, who the fuck knows, on a golf, they executed them. Like, you're a fucking maggot, bro, right? Like, and this kid, right, God is good, right? God don't like ugly.
Yeah.
He got up, right? And all of a sudden, when he was going in, dude, this kid was fucking, he was a black kid, he was whiter than me, bro. he got up and it just, the life came out of him. Whatever fucking facade of a fucking, of that he had inside him, heart, like, it was like,
God.
and they were like, you're gonna be fucking someone's bitch, you're gonna be all this shit, like, yeah, they'll be like, yeah, they'll be fucking, like, crazy shit, and I'm like, I'm sitting there just so I can eat it up, I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, I've seen it
Right?
happen, dude. The fucking toughest dudes crumble, bro. You know, this dude came into a Walpole one time, and the first thing I ever heard out of his mouth was a big, loud bitch. And I turned around and I'm like, what the fuck? Because you know when someone screams, it's like, who is he talking to?
Yeah.
Right? So I turn around, he's talking to these other dudes, but
Yeah.
And like he was.
Who even fucking says that?
Yeah, dude, like,
But who even says like bitch, like you know what I'm saying? I gotta be really like fucking like
Yeah, real
like,
mad.
Yeah, where I'm like fucking searching for words or whatever.
Yeah. But yo, it was mad funny because he was phone checking dudes and everything, bro. Like, yo, boom, taking the phone from guys.
He was T-bowing
a movie, dude, right? And I'm like, dude, I'm right. So I one day it came time for my turn, right? And I ended up calling him in the cell. I'm like, come to my fucking cell. Bro, I took my shirt off and shit, dude. And he comes to the door and he backs up again. He's like, yo, we gonna do this. We gonna like, yo, what you do, bro? I'm like, come here, bro, right? So he gets on
He's flagging the fucking the screws.
He's a big ass dude, bro, right? And I'm thinking, you know, the kid's certified. Like he just like, and everybody said from, you know, he was in South Bay, he was beating dudes up. He was like this.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, right? So I'm thinking, you know, it's gonna be a fight, whatever. Who cares? I might lose. Who cares?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so yeah, but you're not gonna fucking abuse me.
Yeah, before the end of the night, dude, I made him. Actually, sorry. The next morning, he had told people I was dunking him and shit, dude, right? Because I had told him to come back from my because he didn't want to come in and fight me then. So we set up a time where we come back from the yard or gym or something like that, dude. And he's like, oh, when 5 minutes comes, I'm keeping your cell, all right? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to do nothing.
Wait, I told you.
Yeah. So I look up, because there were 30 tiers, so I look up, it was in Walpole, so I'm looking up, and he's like, give me a little bit, I'm like, the fuck is that, dude, right? So,
Get out of here.
So I come out for the runner that night, dude, right? Somebody tells me, like, yo, you better go talk to this dude, he's saying that, you know.
And you're racking your brain all night like, what's that mean?
Yo, so I'm like, dude, this dude's fucking weird, bro, right? So I go up to his thing because someone said he was saying I was ducking him. So I go up, I'm like, in the morning time, bro, I had the mop. I'm like, when you come out, I'm like, you're gonna walk up to everybody you said that I was ducking you, and you're gonna call yourself a bitch, and you're gonna say that you were ducking me, bro, or I'm gonna wrap this mop ring around your head.
Yeah.
Bro, he really did it, bro. He came out the next morning, called, he said, I just wanna let you guys know, I'm a bitch.
Really? That's
right.
You know what? I know. Listen, you're a good dude. I bet after that, I know.
He was quiet.
No, of course he was. But I bet after that you felt bad, dude. That's I hate bullies and shit like that.
I didn't want to.
But when you're forced to, like, you know what? That's why it's so fucking irritating. Where it's like, all right, so we want to play chicken, right? We'll play chicken, right? It's like I don't like confrontation. I don't want none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? But like before I'm already fucking, you know, full, I'm already anxious and shit, right? So like, if you think you're gonna add to that by like, you know what I mean? It's like, fuck it, dude, I'll take my chances, right? Like, what are you gonna do? Beat me up? Dude, I don't even like myself after fucking time, you know? Like, I'll take the physical fucking pain. Yeah. And then to see, like, I've said it before, like when people, when there's a crowd, like, and it's wild where it's like I don't know, it's like the fucking psychology. When there's a crowd, like that's when a lot of people's decisions. You know, of course, when you grab someone to the side, you know, and you talk and you say, I don't, like I said, I don't like confrontation, and before I'd allow myself to fucking be consumed by that, and that's like a perfect place, right? Like perfect storm in there where it's like. That's worse than the fucking time itself, bro. The mental fucking torture. And it's like I'd pull the person, I'd probably be stuttering, I'd be like, fucking, listen, I don't like this, I don't like, you know, doing this, but, you know, like what's up, you know what I mean? And it's like I'm trying to talk, I can't communicate because I'm so fucking full of, I'm in fight or flight, but I'm not flying anywhere, right? So it's like, all right, what are we doing? And then 99% of the time, it's like, that's people like they're either like this kid's nuts, right? Like what's wrong with this kid, right? Or they're like, yeah, they humble themselves and they're like, no, it's not like that. That's good enough for me, bro. Because now I can walk away. I can walk away and be like, hey, I faced the fucking, it's not fear of you, it's fear of fucking.
Yeah,
you know
what I
mean?
might do to you.
Yeah, right.
Get what might happen to me after, dude.
You know what I mean? It's like, and it's crazy, but, wow, we've been going for a minute, bro, huh?
I know, huh?
We gotta fucking wrap this thing up. I'm
Alright,
sorry, I got carried away.
Nah, shit, man, it's been good, bro. Fuck, I appreciate you showing up today, guys,
Yeah.
man. You know, I'll have it back. You know, we'll get into the federal stories and all that shit.
Yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
You know, listen to the little girls at the beginning, man. Like and subscribe that shit, bro. And I'll see you again soon.
All right.
W number out.